Okay, this is 3b.2. So this is the solving for a leg. This is the practice. We're going to start on page 7. We're going to finish up with 2 and 4. And then we're going to flip over to page 8 and we're going to do 13, 14, 15, 16. And then on page 9, we're going to do 17 and 18. And then that'll be it for the practice for today. So going back to page 7, number 2 and 4, just so that we have the directions, do the following lengths form a right triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and look at number 2. And remember, we're working backwards to check these. Find the biggest side. That one's going to be your C. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And then I just plug in the other two values for a and b. 5 squared is 25. 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 169. Add these together, we get 169 equals 169. So we can say check, yes, right triangle. For question number 4, we have 3, 4, and 5. Biggest will always go in as C. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 3 squared plus 4 squared. Remember, you can flip-flop those, doesn't really matter. 9 plus 16 equals 25. 25 equals 25, and that's correct. So yes, this one is also a right triangle. So we're going to flip on over then to page number 8, and we're going to take a look starting at number 13 then. So number 13, we are still, it looks like here, solving for C. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 5 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. 25 plus 4 equals c squared. 29. Take the square root of both sides. The square root of 29, direction said we could round to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to get 5.4 when I round. Taking a look at number 14, it looks like I'm also solving for c squared still, or solving for c, excuse me. So I have 3 squared plus 10 squared equals c squared. 9 plus 100 equals c squared. So 109 equals c squared. Take the square root of both sides, and the square root of 109 is 10.44, so I'm going to round to 10.4 equals C. Taking a look at question number 15, here's my hippo, so C. So I'm going to call this one A and call this one B. So I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, so 3.6 squared plus b squared equals 7.4 squared. And if I do 3.6 squared, I get 12.96 plus b squared. 7.4 squared will give me 54.76. So again, I'm going to subtract that 12.96 so that I can get the b squared by itself minus 12.96. And I get 41.8. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides, the square root of 41.8, rounded to the nearest tenth. So I get 6.465. So it's going to round up to 6.5 then. In number 16, this is C, A, B. So I'll swap this out. I'll do this one as a squared this time. So I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we'll say a squared plus 3.9 squared equals 11 squared. 3.9, and there is a squared button on your calculator. It is right next to the square root. So we have a squared plus 15.21 equals 121. Subtract away that 15.21. So I have 121 minus 15.21. I get 105.79. And those cancel, leaving me with a squared. Take the square root of both sides, and my a is equal to 10.3, and I do round up on that one. If you go on over to page number 9, we're going to do 17 and 18, and that'll be it. Across from the square, the right angle is your c side, your hypotenuse. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A, B, you can swap them out. It doesn't really matter. 6.5 squared plus b squared equals 9.9 squared. So 6.5 squared will give me 42.25 plus b squared. And 9.9 squared will give me 98.01. Taking away the 42.25 on both sides. 2.25 will give me 55.76 equals b squared. Don't want b squared, just want b, so I take the square root and round it. I get 7.467, so 7.5. For the last one here, going across, there's my c value. So if I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, I'm going to do 9.7 squared plus b squared equals 13.3 squared. And again, if you put this as a squared plus 9.7 squared, it doesn't really matter. So we get 94.09 plus b squared, and 13.3 squared will give me 176.89. Subtract away the 94.09. Oops, it's a 9. So minus 94.09. I get 82.8 equals b squared. And I want to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. And my square root turns out to be 9.099, which would be 9.1 then. So that's it. That's the end of your practice for lesson 3.2, solving for a leg.